The message came across all frequencies, in every language, on every screen, and through every neural interface on Earth. Your species is inadequate. Submit or be eliminated. That was 3 years ago. I still remember how my coffee cup slipped from my fingers in the NASA control room, shattering against the floor as those arrogant words scrolled across our monitors. The Vextari, as they called themselves, had simply appeared, massive ships blotting out the stars above every major city on Earth. They were tall, crystalline beings, moving with liquid grace. Their translucent forms refracted light in ways that made them seem almost divine, almost. Until you saw the contempt in their faceted eyes. Humans, their ambassador had declared during first contact at the UN, are a primitive species playing with forces beyond their comprehension. Your technology is crude, your body's fragile, your mind's limited. The way they spoke, as if discussing slow children, made my blood boil. I am Dr. Olivia Bennett, lead researcher for Project Phoenix, and I was there when they gave us their ultimatum: submit to their rule and become a protectorate species under their benevolent guidance, or face extinction. They gave us 1 month to decide. World leaders tried diplomacy, of course. We offered cultural exchange, trade agreements, even technological collaboration. The Vextari dismissed it all with that same crystalline laughter, like shattering glass. What could you possibly offer us? Their ambassador had asked, amusement glinting in their multifaceted eyes. What they didn't understand, what they couldn't understand, was that humans had something they had never encountered before: desperation, mixed with sheer, unyielding defiance. While politicians talked, people like me worked. The Vextari had made a crucial mistake. They had shown us their technology. Just glimpses. But for humans, glimpses were enough. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, my team worked without sleep, analyzing every scrap of data we could gather about their crystalline biology. They believed their physical form made them superior. They never considered it might also be their greatest weakness. Dr. Bennett. My assistant, Maya, called out, her voice trembling with excitement. The latest simulation results, you need to see this. I rushed to her station, scanning the holographic display floating above her desk. The numbers made my heart race. Run it again, I ordered, keeping my voice steady. Triple check everything. The next hour was the longest of my life. Each verification came back positive. What we had discovered wasn't just a weakness, it was the key to everything. The Vextari's crystalline structure, the very thing that made them seem invulnerable, could be disrupted by a specific frequency of sonic waves. Not just disrupted, completely rewritten. Get me the Joint Chiefs, I said, fingers flying over my keyboard. And someone wake up the president. That was the moment everything changed, the moment we stopped being the primitive species they dismissed. The moment we started fighting back. The Vextari expected us to kneel. They never imagined their ultimatum would unite humanity like nothing else in our history. They never considered that giving us time would only push us to adapt, evolve, and turn the tables when everyone else thought we were finished. The Defense Council chamber was silent as I finished my presentation. 50 of Earth's most powerful military and scientific leaders sat before me, their faces illuminated by the rotating holographic models of Vextari molecular structures. General Santos was the first to speak, her expression taut with controlled excitement. You're telling us we can not only hurt them but reprogram them? In essence, yes. I zoomed in on a particular crystalline formation. Their bodies are living quantum computers. Their consciousness, their very essence, is encoded in these lattice structures. With the right frequency, we can rewrite their fundamental programming. Their superiority is about to become their downfall, Maya murmured beside me. The Chinese military representative leaned forward. How long to weaponize this? I glanced at Maya before answering. We've already done it. The prototype sonic emitter is ready for mass production. We can deploy globally within 2 weeks. The Vextari's deadline is in 10 days, someone pointed out. Then we work faster, I said. The beauty of this weapon is its simplicity. It can be produced using existing audio technology with minimal modifications. For the next week, while the world above continued its charade of submission, underground facilities worked around the clock. The Vextari observed our obvious military movements with amusement, never realizing the real threat was being built and repurposed recording studios and audio labs. They didn't even attempt to stop our primitive radio broadcasts. Why would they? To them, our electromagnetic communications were like stone tools to a spacefaring race. 3 days before their deadline, we were ready. The plan was as elegant as it was audacious, a synchronized global broadcast on what we dubbed the Prometheus frequency. Every speaker, every sound system, every audio device on Earth would transmit simultaneously. The night before the attack, I stood at my lab window, staring up at the Vextari ships still hanging in our sky like crystalline sentinels. "Are we doing the right thing?" Maya asked softly. "They gave us no choice," I said. But the weight of what we were about to do sat heavy on my shoulders. We weren't just going to defeat them, we were going to fundamentally change their species. The ethical implications were staggering. "What do you think they'll become?" she wondered. I shook my head. "The simulations suggest the frequency will rewrite their base programming to align with human consciousness. They'll retain their intelligence, their memories, but their drive to dominate should be replaced with a capacity for cooperation. We're forcing evolution on them," Maya whispered, equal parts awe and horror. "They sought to reshape us into something they wanted," I said. "Instead, we're showing them what humanity has learned, that true strength comes from unity, not conquest." At dawn, the Vextari expected our surrender. Instead, they received something unprecedented. The first sign was a subtle vibration, more felt than heard. Their ships shimmered, as though seen through a heat haze. Then the screaming began, a sound no human throat could produce. It was the cry of crystal under stress, a piercing wail that sent shivers through the earth. Their ships pulsed with an inner light. Hairline fractures spread across their perfect surfaces. "Dr. Bennett," Maya gasped. "Their ground forces, they're changing." On screen, across the world, the Vextari were falling to their knees. Some clung to each other as their forms pulsed with rainbow light. Others stood perfectly still, crystalline tears streaming down their faceted faces. Their bodies were becoming translucent, their neural patterns reorganizing. Above us, the mothership glowed blindingly, its rigid structure melting, reforming, alive in ways we never imagined. 17 minutes. That was all it took. When the light faded, the ships were no longer the sharp crystalline monoliths of conquest. They were fluid, organic structures, pulsing with inner radiance. "Dr. Bennett," a voice called from the comm station. "The Vextari ambassador is requesting to speak with you personally." They're crying. I took a deep breath, straightened my coat, and turned to the screen. "Put them through," I said. "Let's see what we've created." The face that appeared was both familiar and strikingly different. The ambassador's crystalline features had softened, and light pulsed through their form in intricate patterns, conveying emotions beyond words. Their eyes, once cold and faceted, now swirled with colors I couldn't name. "Dr. Bennett," they said, their voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. There are no words in your language for what we have become. We see now." Their voice resonated with harmonics that stirred something deep within me. "We see everything we were blind to before, the complexity, the beauty of interconnection, the strength that arises from diversity rather than uniformity." They paused, colors rippling through their translucent form. "We were so wrong about humanity." I gripped the edge of the console, my knuckles white. This was beyond our expectations, both exhilarating and terrifying. We hadn't just altered their aggression, we had reshaped their entire perception of reality. "The others," I said carefully. "Your people on the other ships, in your colonies, are they?" "We are all changed," they replied. "We are still connected, but not in the rigid hierarchy of before. Now, it is." They hesitated, searching for words. "Imagine a symphony where every instrument composes its own melody while remaining in harmony with the whole." Reports were flooding in from around the world. Every Vex theory, from their highest leaders to their youngest members, had undergone the same transformation. Even their technology, an extension of their crystalline nature, had evolved with them. The weapons they once designed for our subjugation had transformed into tools of creation and exploration. There will be those among my people who question what has been done to you, Maya pointed out, her scientific caution surfacing. We effectively forced an evolution upon your species without consent. The ambassador's form pulsed with what I was beginning to recognize as thoughtful consideration. Just as we were prepared to force your species into submission or extinction, they said. But you chose transformation over destruction. That choice, that capacity for innovation coupled with mercy, it is precisely what we failed to see in humanity before. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Maya rushed to her station. Multiple objects entering the solar system, she reported, her face pale. They're Vexteri ships. The rest of the fleet. The ones that weren't in Earth orbit. My heart sank. Of course. The ships near Earth weren't their entire civilization. We had changed those within range of our broadcast, but what about the others? Had we just made Earth a target for vengeance? The ambassador's form brightened. Do not fear, they said, their melodic voice carrying an unmistakable note of joy. Watch. On our screens, the approaching fleet was visible, their ships still bearing the sharp, aggressive crystalline designs of the original Vexteri. But as they drew closer to Earth, something extraordinary happened. The transformed ships in orbit began to resonate, sending out pulses of light that rippled through space like waves on a pond. The frequency, I breathed, realization dawning. It's propagating itself through your natural quantum connections. Yes, the ambassador confirmed. What you began, we now continue. Our entire civilization will transform, not through force, but through the natural resonance of truth recognized. We watched in awe as the approaching ships began to change. Their transformation was more fluid, more graceful than the forced evolution we had triggered, like watching crystalline flowers bloom in time-lapse. Their rigid forms shifted into new, harmonious configurations. Dr. Bennett, the ambassador said softly, drawing my attention back. We came here believing we would find primitives to control or destroy. Instead, we found teachers. The question now is, are you ready for what comes next? What does come next? I asked, knowing every word of this exchange would be studied for generations. The ambassador shimmered with intricate patterns. Now, we learn from each other. You have shown us a new way to exist. Perhaps we can show you what your own potential truly is. The weeks that followed changed everything we thought we knew, not just about the Vexteri but about the very nature of consciousness itself. Across the globe, humans and transformed Vexteri worked together, bridging the gap between our vastly different existences. I spent most of my time with the ambassador, whom we now called Aurora, a name they chose after experiencing their first Earth sunrise in their new form. One evening, as we sat in my lab reviewing data, I asked, your transformation, it wasn't just physical, was it? You gained more than just a new perspective. Aurora's form shimmered with what I now recognized as their version of a smile. We gained the ability to see between the lines, they explained. Before, we perceived reality as absolute, binary, crystalline, rigid. Now, we see the spaces between, the quantum foam of possibility that your species has always intuited but never fully grasped. They gestured, and the air between us filled with dancing patterns of light, a visual representation of quantum states that should have been impossible to perceive at our scale. Your species' greatest strength was never technology or physical capability, Aurora continued. It was your ability to imagine what could be rather than accepting what is. The implications were staggering. Humanity had unintentionally given the Vexteri something they had never possessed before, the ability to dream. Reports poured in of new breakthroughs. In Japan, a joint team used modified Vexteri technology to clean the oceans of microplastics. In Brazil, rainforests were regrowing at an unprecedented rate. In orbit, transformed ships taught us about space travel in ways we had never imagined. But not everyone welcomed these changes. That evening, I received a secure message from General Santos. Her hologram flickered to life, her expression grave. Dr. Bennett, there's concern among certain parties that we've made ourselves vulnerable. The Vex theory may seem changed, but we have no long-term proof that this transformation is permanent. Some believe we need contingency plans. Behind me, Aurora's crystalline form pulsed with subtle colors. They had heard everything, of course. Their senses extended far beyond what we initially understood. Your leaders fear what they do not understand, Aurora said, their voice carrying harmonics of both sadness and comprehension. Just as we once feared what we could not control. Perhaps it is time to show them what true cooperation can achieve. They moved to the center of the lab, their form glowing with an inner light that made the very air vibrate with possibility. Dr. Bennett, they said, turning toward me. Would you assist me in a demonstration, one that might help your species understand that true power lies not in weapons or control, but in the space between fear and trust? I nodded, knowing we were about to cross another threshold. The transformation we had triggered wasn't just about changing the Vex theory, it was about changing ourselves. About learning to see beyond our own limitations and fears. Tell General Santos to gather your world's leaders, Aurora said, their form pulsing with unfamiliar, intricate patterns. It's time to show humanity what you've truly created, not just a changed enemy, but a doorway to your own evolution. We gained the ability to see the world for what it truly was, a vast tapestry of infinite possibilities. The first breakthrough occurred when a child in Nairobi, experimenting with a Luminari teaching device, unknowingly projected her imagination into reality. From her thoughts, a small, glowing flower took shape, pulsing with life. Soon after, a scientist in Berlin, deep in meditation on quantum equations, discovered he could manipulate matter at the atomic level using only his focused intent. These abilities weren't confined to a select few, they existed within all of us, waiting to be unlocked. Yet, with such power came great responsibility. The Luminari didn't just teach us how to harness these newfound abilities, they guided us in using them wisely. We learned to perceive the deep interconnectedness of all things, understanding that even the smallest actions sent ripples through the quantum fabric of reality. Wars ceased, not through force, but through understanding. Poverty and hunger became relics of the past as we learned to manifest what we needed directly from the quantum field. Earth itself transformed. Cities became masterpieces, blending human creativity with Luminari technology. The air cleared, the oceans healed, and the planet flourished beyond our wildest dreams. And we didn't stop at Earth. With the power of the collective human and Luminari consciousness, our starships ventured beyond our home, reaching worlds we had once only imagined. One evening, I stood beside Aurora, gazing over a city illuminated with vibrant, living light. We thought we were saving ourselves, I murmured in awe. But in truth, we were saving each other. Aurora's form shimmered with colors I still couldn't name. You showed us the power of imagination, the strength of dreaming, she said. And we showed you the science behind it. Together, we've created something new, a civilization that truly understands its place in the universe. As I looked at the world we had built, I knew this was only the beginning. The Luminari once believed themselves the pinnacle of evolution, while we had considered ourselves insignificant in the vastness of the cosmos. But together, we had discovered a far greater truth. Real power lies in the space between us, in the connections we forge, the dreams we share, and the infinite possibilities we create together. Above us, the stars no longer seemed distant. They weren't just within reach, they were waiting for us. As I extended my newly awakened quantum senses, I felt the universe itself respond, ready to unveil wonders beyond imagination. We had changed the Vex door, just as they had changed us. And together, we would change everything.